John, Molly, thanks so much for doing this. How are you doing today?
No problem. How are you, Ben?
I'm good. I'm really excited to talk to you. I think this is
Man.
one of my favorite performances from you so far. It was really brilliant. So,
No,
I'm really
thank you.
excited to talk about the film. I want to specifically ask, what did Molly and Wyatt bring to the table that allowed you to give the best performance possible?
Molly and Wyatt, they're two really amazing kids. Cole was really lucky to find them, it was exactly what he was looking for. They're kids. They're just kids. They're not child actors necessarily. Uh, having them playing scenes next to you, it keeps you on your toes because you really don't know what you're going to get, especially with Wyatt. So we found ourselves in a lot of ways just plot figuring out what the scene was about, and then just going from there. A lot of improv, a lot of just talking, and it kept it really alive and fresh. It's exhausting at times, as kids can be, but it was really amazing. But they also had tremendous depth, and as you see in the film, they're able to go to really powerful places emotionally. Um, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, they're both extremely talented and really authentic, and let me get into a place that was also that.
I love to hear that. I think what's so cool about the movie is that it doesn't really reveal what the road trip is really about until the final moments. Going into the project, reading the script, was it a surprise for you as well? Was that the conclusion part of the pitch, or how was it formed to you?
No, I mean, when I read the initial thing, I think there was something about that the law in Nebraska 2008. But no, no, reading it, I didn't know exactly where it was going. I didn't know how it ended or anything like that. The ending was a little different in the initial script that I read, but it was still going kind of, to the same place. Uh, um, but it surprised me. And I'm glad that still that feeling is still there in the final cut of the film. I think that's important for it. I think it's important for the audience not to necessarily get ahead of it by very much. Otherwise, there's not a lot of reason to keep watching.
Yeah, exactly. I want to ask you're on a road trip in this film. You clearly had a lot of different locations for the project. I'm curious to hear if environments and locations specifically have a big influence on you as an actor and your performances in any project.
Uh, Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think any set you work on, whether it's a stage set or whether you're at a location or whatever it is, it's going to affect you on the day. It's going to affect something in your performance. Um, that's why it's really difficult. If you're an actor who's going to try and plan everything out ahead of time, which isn't really the way I like to do it. I like to be surprised when I'm shooting. If you're trying to plan everything out, you're going to be in trouble because you're going to show up on a day. I mean, there's an example of this. We were shooting in the high plains of Wyoming at a gas station. A scene where, Wyatt is listening to music and dancing. Uh, so windy up there at that time of year. I mean, just like 50-mile-an-hour wind just pushing constantly. And it changes the entire day. It changes the entire feeling in the shot, and you just kind of have to roll with the punches. So everything, I mean, that also goes for your costume, that goes for the hair and makeup. All those things inform who the character is and how the scene is going to be played on those days. And you got to be willing to kind of go with it.
Yeah. I want to talk about the ending, not specifically. I think it feels you leave feeling so emotionally gutted, and I think it does a really good job at doing that. I think it leaves an impact. I was wondering if you could think back to another film that you saw that gave you that similar visceral reaction to it. Can you think back to a film that?
I mean, a similar film that, there's some inspiration from is Manchester by the Sea. I mean, I
Yeah,
think you feel very similar way. I mean, there's a ton that have emotional gut punches,
right.
and I love that. Like, I'm a sucker for that. Like, I love to get all weepy when I'm watching a film. Um, uh, but that's one just off the top of my head. We could go on for hours
Yeah.
about films that leave you devastated.
Yeah, for sure. I did some digging through your IMDb page, and over the course of 20 years now, have 61 credited projects. I'm curious to hear about how Omaha fits into your evolution as an actor. How does this performance feel different from earlier work? Is there something that does this feel like a turning point for you in your career in any way?
Well, I think it's the first time I played a dad on film. I think, I might be wrong. Someone would have to check that. And I am a dad. So, one of the fun things about doing this is, your life kind of aligns with what you're doing, what you're playing. When I was young, I was playing high school students and college students. And then the next thing you know, you're playing young men who are military, a lot of military stuff, things like that. Then you start playing young professionals, then you're married, then you have kids. So it's just, you can go as a film actor, you can go over your life kind of by your filmography, what was going on in your life. I had just become a new father when I started to do this film. So in a lot of ways, it corresponds with where you are at in your chronology of life.
Yeah. Really quickly, do you feel there was a specific shift? I know you just said you became a dad going into the role. Do you feel there was a shift in how you did the performance, but at the end of the day?
I couldn't. Yeah, I think that's, yeah, of course. I think that has to infuse itself into you as an actor. Consciously, I don't know. It's hard to
Yeah.
say. I'm just living my life. Um, but by having a kid, it definitely informs feelings about fatherhood and feelings about children and all that kind of stuff. It can't help but inform that. Uh, but I'm not making a conscious decision about those feelings. They just seep into me, and every experience in my life, whatever it is. And I think this is for every actor. Everything that you go through is added and becomes another kind of layer in the stew of what you are, as what you have to offer as an actor.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I want to really thank you for doing this. I want to quickly say Past Lives, one of my favorite movies, genuinely of all time. I
Thank
think
you.
that your performance there is just brilliant. I was just thinking back some of the lines there, and I think that this is genuinely one of your best performances. So thank you for doing this today.
Appreciate it. Good talking to you, man.
I really think that you, John, and Wyatt give some of the best performances I've seen this year so far. So it's really an honor to speak with you.
Thank
Um,
you.
I'm going to jump into this. I want to ask all your characters. You guys are on a road trip in this movie. You clearly had a lot of
Mhm.
different locations for the project. I'm curious to hear if environments and locations particularly have a big influence on you as an actor and your performances in any project.
Well, I love nature and animals. That's probably one of my favorite part about, acting and going to different locations for movies because obviously you get to travel the world and it's so glorious because I'm going to places that I don't see myself going if, I'm not an actor and I'm not doing that movie. And Utah, oh my gosh, there was just glorious mountains with the sun shining on them and so many I know like beautiful animals. And then I went to Wyoming and I stayed at this hotel for 2 nights. It's called Elk Mountain. It was haunted. And there were little books on our bed saying about the ghosts because it was famous for being haunted. And of course, the ghost was sighted in Roommate, which is where we were staying. Thankfully, only for 2 nights, but that's a story for another time. Anyways, I saw this giant moose. It was quite close, like not up close, but like I could just see it walking on this mountain. And obviously, it was a sight for sore eyes. Something I've never experienced, like a once in a lifetime experience. And yes, it really does influence me because for my performance as well, because acting around this kind of beautiful nature is one of my favorite things to do.
I love to hear that. Was there specifically anything about Wyatt and yourself that you bonded over off screen to really help create that sibling bond because it feels so real in the movie?
I mean, yes, I have a little brother too, and he's around the same age as Wyatt, maybe just a tiny, like a year younger than him now. So when I read the script, I saw myself in that kind of role because I am an older sister and we're the same ages as Charlie and Ella in the script. And yeah, I remember we went to this sea life aquarium place. And yeah, it was really fun. We went to quite a few places together, like when we weren't filming. And he was just so like cute and wacky and full of energy, like, full of life. And I saw a lot of him and my brother. So yeah, he was really, really easy to act with
That's
and to
great.
create that with.
I love that. I want to talk about the dynamic with your scene partners. How did it influence your performance in ways you didn't expect?
Well, I love learning from actors around me. Obviously, John Magaro. I mean, at 9, I was like, I'd only been acting for a few years and I was just eager to learn about it because it's an art form and I was kind of becoming aware of how much there is out there to do with acting and how big the world of actors is and how much knowledge there is to be discovered. And then, as if I was dreaming, I was sat in a car for 7 weeks next to John Magaro and oh my gosh, it's probably better than if I signed up to a world famous acting school for a few years. The things that I learned and the performances that I witnessed, looking into his eyes and the emotions that he emulates, like nothing was fake. Like, when you could watch a TV show or a film and catch out an actor obviously acting, and you say, well, that's fake, that's not really real. You can't get that with John. Like, there's no way. His performance is just real and grounded and believable. And so I was really lucky to be on that set with John and Wyatt and everyone.
Yeah, I talked with him yesterday and he could not stop talking about how good you were. So I think it
Really?
really, yeah, he really was a big fan of yours.
Thank you
I
so
want to
much.
talk about, I'm curious to hear how much you knew about the safe haven laws going into the project. Was it even, I know for me, like I didn't even know much. So it was kind of a learning experience for me watching the movie. How about for you?
It was the same, sorry, for me, because I hadn't an idea about it when I first obviously got the script for the project. And it was quite an eye opener for me because obviously I think it would be the same way for, for you and for quite a lot of people, obviously, because for us both, it's like you don't really know much about it. And then you'll read something about it or you'll read the script and or watch the movie and you'll be like, oh, that really happened. And I feel like that's probably its intention is to, make people more aware of what happened. And I feel like it did its job because I was more aware, my eyes were opened. I was like, wow, this is true. This is because at the end it says based in the credits, it says based on a true story. And I feel like that's what kind of will get people. So make sure you bring your tissues to the cinema if you're going to watch it because it is one that will definitely pull at your heartstrings.
100%. And it left me emotionally gutted, which actually leads to my next question. I want to talk about another movie that you can think of that you had that visceral reaction, feeling so emotional after watching. Is there one that comes to mind?
That's an easy question. That's an easy question. I have a recent new obsession with a movie called Coda. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh, I
Coda.
love that movie. I love that movie.
I've recently watched it and I'm kind of gutted with myself for not watching it earlier because, oh my gosh, the performances and how it was directed, it's so real and grounded. And I feel like, obviously, with what I was saying with John, I didn't catch a single person acting. And Amelia Jones, who plays Ruby in Coda, her flawless sign language that she learned, by the way, for that movie, which I find is just incredible dedication, and her singing voice, and it was just mwah, the best movie I've probably seen in a while. So, new favorite. And
It's one of,
also,
yeah,
Siobhan Hayder, the director. Got to give credits to her because that movie's a masterpiece.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's one of my favorite movies, actually. And going back to some of the potential favorite days on set, do you have a particular favorite day on set that kind of alleviated from the stress of this heavy movie?
Yes, I have answered this before in another question because it's obviously one of my favorite days. I turned 10 on that day on that day shooting, September 13th, because yeah, it's my birthday. I turned 10 while shooting and people dressed up, they surprised me. They dressed up as Harry Potter characters because I love Harry Potter. I still do till this day. And yep, the sound guy dressed up as Dobby. He had a sock in his pocket and he was like floating past on this hoverboard type thing. And I just remember thinking, wow, I love this crew so much because everyone's so creative and fun and lovely. And the fact that they kind of dressed up for my birthday, I just can't really felt special. It was all Harry Potter themed, and there was like a Hermione costume waiting in my dressing room for that location. And I just remember thinking, this is really cool. I love this. Probably one of my favorite experiences, and it has been probably to this day one of my favorites.
I love to hear that. Do you remember what excited you or even intimidated you about taking on this role? Was there anything in particular?
Hmm. That's a good question. Excited or intimidated me? Well, I was really excited that I got to work with John Magaro because I had known about him beforehand, obviously, because he is such an amazing actor and I just admire him so much. Like to have his talent and his skill, like I would probably, I would have the best time. And Wyatt, I was really happy with the idea of having to play an older sister because obviously I am in real life and to work with Wyatt because he was just so fun and we bonded so much. And there was a swimming pool in the hotel and we would go swimming. And it was just really great getting to know the both of them to work with this cast. And it was quite diverse from any movies I've done before. A road trip in a car. It was, most of the scenes were in the car except from, the zoo, the salt flats, the swimming pool, and like the motel. The movie was probably like 90% based in the car and a road trip, and it was just really cool. I also got to work with the dog. That was really great. Probably my favorite part. Sorry, John. Sorry, Wyatt.
I love that. Yeah, and quickly, did you feel yourself getting attached to that dog? Because I know I was getting attached.
I was getting attached to that dog, and I actually cried when it was time for him to go home. Originally, oh my gosh, I've got a story. Originally, there was another dog. It was a different dog at the beginning bit, and oh my gosh, he wasn't doing his job. He got fired. He got sacked. I felt really bad, but he was supposed to run up to me. In at the start when I go, here, like, come on, Rex, here, boy,
Yep.
like that. That dog, he ran straight past me, and he did that about 10 times, and then he got sacked. He got sacked on his first day working, and I felt really bad. But then they hired a new Rex, and it was all great because he was cute too.
Yeah, I mean, that dog was one of my favorite parts. I mean, you guys truly
Oh,
one of my favorite performances this year. Thank you so much for doing this,
thank you
and
so much.
I had a really good time talking to you.
You too. Thank you.